The large intestine, colon, extends from the end of the ileum to the anus. It is about 5 feet long, being 1/5 of the whole extent of the intestinal canal. Its caliber is largest at the commencement at the cecum, and gradually diminishes as far as the rectum, where there is a dilatation of considerable size just above the anal canal. It differs from the small intestine in by the greater caliber, more fixed position, sacculated form, and in possessing certain appendages to its external coat, the appendices epiploicy. Further, its longitudinal muscular fibers do not form a continuous layer around the gut, but are arranged in 3 longitudinal bands or tyanae. The large intestine is divided into the cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. In its course, describes an arch which surrounds the convolutions of the small intestine. It commences in the right iliac region, in a dilated part, the cecum. It ascends through the right lumbar and hypochondriac regions to the under surface of the liver. Here it takes a bend, the right colic flex, to the left and passes transversely across the abdomen on the confines of the epigastric and umbilical regions, to the left hypochondriac region. It then bends again, the left colic flex, and descends through the left lumbar and iliac regions to the pelvis, where it forms a bend called the sigmoid flex. From this it is continued along the posterior wall of the pelvis to the anus. There are trillions of bacteria, yeasts, and parasites living in our intestines, mostly in the colon. Over 400 species of organisms live in the colon. Most of these are very helpful to our health, while the minority are harmful. Helpful organisms synthesize vitamins, like B12, biotin, and vitamin K. They break down toxins and stop proliferation of harmful organisms. They stimulate the immune system and produce short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, that are required for the health of colon cells and help prevent colon cancer. There are many beneficial bacteria, but some of the most common and important are Lactobacillus acidophilus and various species of Bifidobacterium. These are available as probiotics from many sources.
The large intestine. The large intestine is the terminal part of the alimentary canal. The primary function of this organ is to finish absorption of nutrients and water, synthesize certain vitamins, form feces, and eliminate feces from the body. Structure. The large intestine runs from the appendix to the anus. It frames the small intestine on 3 sides. Despite its being about 1/2 as long as the small intestine, it is called large because it is more than twice the diameter of the small intestine, about 3 inches. Subdivisions. The large intestine is subdivided into 4 main regions: the cecum, the colon, the rectum, and the anus. The ileocecal valve, located at the opening between the ileum and the large intestine, controls the flow of chyme from the small intestine to the large intestine. Cecum. The first part of the large intestine is the cecum, a sac-like structure that is suspended inferior to the ileocecal valve. It is about 6 cm, 2.4 in, long, receives the contents of the ileum, and continues the absorption of water and salts. The appendix, or vermiform appendix, is a winding tube that attaches to the cecum. Although the 7.6 cm, 3 in, long appendix contains lymphoid tissue, suggesting an immunologic function, this organ is generally considered vestigial. However, at least one recent report postulates a survival advantage conferred by the appendix. In diarrheal illness, the appendix may serve as a bacterial reservoir to repopulate the enteric bacteria for those surviving the initial phases of the illness. Moreover, its twisted anatomy provides a haven for the accumulation and multiplication of enteric bacteria. The mesoappendix, the mesentery of the appendix, tethers it to the mesentery of the ileum. Colon. The cecum blends seamlessly with the colon. Upon entering the colon, the food residue first travels up the ascending colon on the right side of the abdomen. At the inferior surface of the liver, the colon bends to form the right colic flexure, hepatic flexure, and becomes the transverse colon. The region defined as hindgut begins with the last third of the transverse colon and continues on. Food residue passing through the transverse colon travels across to the left side of the abdomen, where the colon angles sharply immediately inferior to the spleen, at the left colic flexure, splenic flexure. From there, food residue passes through the descending colon, which runs down the left side of the posterior abdominal wall. After entering the pelvis inferiorly, it becomes the S-shaped sigmoid colon, which extends medially to the midline. The ascending and descending colon, and the rectum, are located in the retroperitoneum. The transverse and sigmoid colon are tethered to the posterior abdominal wall by the mesocolon. Colorectal cancer. Each year, approximately 140,000 Americans are diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and another 49,000 die from it, making it one of the most deadly malignancies. People with a family history of colorectal cancer are at increased risk. Smoking, excessive alcohol consumption, and a diet high in animal fat and protein also increase the risk. Despite popular opinion to the contrary, studies support the conclusion that dietary fiber and calcium do not reduce the risk of colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer may be signaled by constipation or diarrhea, cramping, abdominal pain, and rectal bleeding. Bleeding from the rectum may be either obvious or occult, hidden in feces. Since most colon cancers arise from benign mucosal growths called polyps, cancer prevention is focused on identifying these polyps. The colonoscopy is both diagnostic and therapeutic. Colonoscopy not only allows identification of precancerous polyps, the procedure also enables them to be removed before they become malignant. Screening for fecal occult blood tests and colonoscopy is recommended for those over 50 years of age. Rectum. Food residue leaving the sigmoid colon enters the rectum in the pelvis, near the third sacral vertebra. The final 20.3 cm, 8 in, of the alimentary canal, the rectum extends anterior to the sacrum and coccyx. Even though rectum is Latin for straight, this structure follows the curved contour of the sacrum and has 3 lateral bends that create a trio of internal transverse folds called the rectal valves. These valves help separate the feces from gas to prevent the simultaneous passage of feces and gas. Anal canal. Finally, food residue reaches the last part of the large intestine, the anal canal, which is located in the perineum, completely outside of the abdominopelvic cavity. This 3.85 cm, 1.52 in, long structure opens to the exterior of the body at the anus. The anal canal includes two sphincters. The internal anal sphincter is made of smooth muscle, and its contractions are involuntary. The external anal sphincter is made of skeletal muscle, which is under voluntary control. Except when defecating, both usually remain closed.